Back in 1996, there was this one game that completely redefined strategy for a whole generation. It hooked players with a simple yet incredibly powerful promise: just one more turn. So today, we're going to dive into the story of a real legend, Civilization II.
I mean, when this thing came out, the praise was just everywhere. Critics were calling it a masterpiece, a total landmark in gaming, and, this wasn't just another sequel. For so many people, it perfected a formula that had us all glued to our screens, endlessly chasing that just one more turn feeling.
But here's the crazy part. This game, this absolute classic that sold millions and basically defined a genre, it almost didn't get made, not even close. Its development was so rocky, it's kind of a miracle it ever saw the light of day. Let's get into it.
Yeah, the story of Civ II, it doesn't start with some big, grand plan. Nope. It starts with a huge creative clash that almost tanked the whole franchise before it even really got going.
So here's the deal. At the heart of the problem was this fundamental conflict. You've got the visionary creator, the legendary Sid Meier, and he was kind of done with Civilization. He was way more interested in this niche music program he was working on. But his publisher, Microprose, saw a potential gold mine and they desperately needed another hit. So with the creator and the publisher wanting completely different things, the project was just stuck.
So, with Sid Meier off doing his own thing, this massive, monumental task fell to a new lead designer, Brian Reynolds. Now, Reynolds was mentored by Meier, and he had literally just reverse-engineered the original game's code for another project, so he was pretty much the perfect person to carry that torch forward.
And what Reynolds' team did was, well, it was totally different for the time. Instead of just designing the game in a little bubble, they went out and actively looked for fan feedback. They read through actual letters, and this is the big one. They engaged with the early online communities of the mid-90s. This whole collaborative thing was absolutely key to figuring out what made the first game so great and how to make the sequel even better.
Okay, so all this fan feedback, this new way of thinking, how did that actually show up in the game? Let's break down the gameplay that made Civilization II so unbelievably addictive.
The absolute magic of Civ II is this super simple but incredibly deep gameplay loop. Every single turn, you are making these huge decisions. You start with just a couple of settlers, you found your first city, and then the choices just start piling up. Do you build an army to protect yourself, or maybe a library to speed up your research? It's this constant cycle of building, discovering, and expanding that makes it so hard to walk away from.
And to actually win, you had this whole toolbox you had to get good with. Settlers were, the lifeblood of your empire. Diplomats could go steal tech or even start revolts in enemy cities. Caravans were crucial for building up your economy. And then, oh man, the wonders of the world. These were massive, game-changing projects that could single-handedly shift the balance of power.
But look, Civ II wasn't just about numbers and units and, cold, hard strategy. It had this personality, this super quirky charm that was just so perfectly 90s.
And you can't talk about that charm without talking about the High Council. This was a group of live-action advisors who would pop up to give you advice. And the most famous one, by far, was this Elvis impersonator, your attitude advisor, who was pretty much always miserable about how unhappy your citizens were. I mean, this was peak 90s CD-ROM stuff, right? The advisors would actually argue with each other. When you finished a wonder, you got this wonderfully grainy little video clip, and you could even decorate your throne room. It was all a little goofy, but man, it gave the game so much soul and really made you feel like you were running an empire.
Okay, but beyond the amazing gameplay and the Elvis impersonators, the story of Civ II has some really cool, weird footnotes. We've dug up a few details that might surprise even the most dedicated fans out there.
All right, secret number one. Let's talk about the name. Because, well, why wasn't the game always just called Civilization II?
So get this, if you bought the game in North America, you might have noticed the box just said Sid Meier's Civ II. Turns out, there was a legal dispute after Meier left the company, and they weren't allowed to use the full name there. In Europe, though, the box proudly said Civilization II. A weird little piece of gaming history, all thanks to the lawyers. Go figure.
Okay, on to number two. This one is it's a wild story, and it really shows you how deep this game could go.
So back in 2012, this story pops up on Reddit. A guy had been playing the same exact game of Civ II for 10 years. 10! And his world had turned into this absolute dystopian nightmare, locked in a forever war between three giant superpowers.
The story just exploded online, got picked up by news sites. It became this legendary example of the incredible, unexpected stories that games can create all on their own.
And that brings us to our third and final secret. And this gets to the absolute core of what made you say just one more turn over and over again. The secret sauce, the magic ingredient, was something called procedural content generation. So instead of playing on the same map over and over, Civ II used algorithms to create a brand new, totally unique world every single time you clicked New Game. This technique, which is a huge deal in games today, meant no two games were ever the same. It gave the game limitless replayability and really cemented that one more turn addictiveness.
You know, when you look at the whole story, from its totally unlikely start, to its forward-thinking design, to its weird 90s charm, Civilization II wasn't just a classic. It laid the foundation for strategy games for decades to come. Its story kind of shows that a truly timeless game needs it all: deep strategy, endless replayability, and yeah, a personality that really captures our imagination. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is it that makes a game truly timeless?